Recommending Kingdom Hearts to the uninitiated has become harder and harder over the years, and let me just say, I get it. From the outside looking in, watching the ever more expensive trailers released to completely inscrutable hype, it's become a culture with its own language.
Aqua got Norded!
What?
Aqua got Norded!
That's not words, that's sounds. You're just making sounds.
Aqua got Norded!
And I don't blame anyone for thinking that the developers and the fans are completely high off their own fumes as soon as someone starts talking about when in the sequence they need to play Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a Fragmentary Passage. That's the actual title, I didn't make that up. I've even heard the most persistent among us explain in detail to people with no context exactly how off the rails the play order gets, but it's worth it because you'll get to experience the badass and microwave tunnel. But listen, this series isn't a reading list. You start with the first game, and if you fall in love with that, you keep going one piece at a time, the way most of this series' fans experienced it for themselves. And if you've made it this far and it still hasn't quite stolen your heart, I can assure you, the best is yet to come. After returning to Cid and handing him the Navi-G pieces we got from the Traverse Town and Neverland keyholes, we're treated to one of the most left-field cutscenes in the game. Suddenly Sora's overtaken by some kind of vision. A young Kairi, her grandmother, and a fleeting glimpse at what we can only assume was her home before Destiny Islands. And I hope y'all are ready for a gosh dang lore dump. Ancient times, check. Light and prosperity, check. The greed and hubris of man, blotting out the light, a triple check with check cereal on top. But just when you got 'em reeling with the monomythic cliches, you hit 'em with our thematic content. Children, with the innocent light of their hearts, rebuilt the world torn apart by darkness. Read that, adults who thought they knew everything. And assuming this isn't just a fairy tale, we get some more meat to the theories I was batting around before Neverland. First, though the language isn't explicit, we can extrapolate that the worlds we know are actually made from light, though they all used to be one world and are now mere scattered splinters. Now, if worlds are light and have hearts, that means having a heart, remember we're talking abstract shiny soul hearts, not bloody pumpy heart, may be a property of light. And just as the disparate worlds are connected, so too might some of their people. This next line here about the door to innermost darkness is also intriguing. That darkness may have its own heart that in turn is light. It definitely puts me in mind of the Taoist principle of yin and yang, that at the center of every antithetical force is the essence of its opposite. And yet, like so many stories of light and darkness, the moral of this tale isn't that we have to live in harmony with darkness, but that it can never truly envelop the light, especially if one holds on to that spark of childlike belief. Before we pull up our big yellow bootstraps and head off to the most dangerous world yet, I just want to show what happens if you clear Neverland without having beaten opposite armor. This isn't an especially obscure way to do things, but it's certainly new to me. Cid gives you near explicit instructions on how to reveal Traverse Town's keyhole, but no matter which order we did things, there's only one route left. As much crap as I've given the Gummi routes over the worlds, this one actually has a few cool set pieces, like this giant castle gate and accompanying wall. It feels like this route is deliberately defended by our foes, in conjunction with the massive swarms of enemies. Only one new blueprint among them, serpents, imitating their wing design that, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't actually used by any Final Fantasy serpents until after this game's release. Hollow Bastion's overworld design does such a great job of conveying its tonal shift, the aggressively decrepit design of the castle, the swirling water and steam, and yet it still retains a hint of Disney whimsy in its twisting colonnades. This is also the first time a world's battle level really draws the eye, jumping up from Neverland's 7 to an intimidating 10 stars. It's about to get real. Touching down, we get a brief scene about how Sora finds this world familiar before it's interrupted by the same roar we heard in that last Riku cutscene. Welcome to the Rising Falls, an extremely striking first impression that conveys everything about Hollow Bastion. The rising tension, the subtle feeling that everything here is wrong or in defiance of nature. We can't swim in this pool in the bottom, but the water acts as a solid surface despite the treasure we can see through it. And even though they're such a staple of the genre, this is the first time we've seen floating platforms, save for the few we could explicitly operate with magic. If we jump into one of these bubbles, it will carry us beneath the water and act as a short-term air supply. This area is bizarre in a way even Wonderland wasn't. Oddly enough, these bubbles sort of look like they're making a path up to this platform with a treasure chest, but it's not hard to reach from above with our fancy new glide ability. Sorry to break the mood, but a puppy wrangler's gotta do what a puppy wrangler's gotta do. Two of these are in opposite corners of the dining room, by the chairs and display case window, and the third is propped up behind Mom and Dad. He looks kinda eager to go outside. You know, I hope someone like Leon or Geppetto comes by to walk these guys every now and then. We're up to 84 immature dogs in a mostly carpeted house. I'm surprised this place doesn't have the same footstep sound effects as Monstro. We can grab another treasure or two in the falls. We have to use this bubble to reach the underwater area below, and though it once again again looks like it kind of leads up to this other chest, we can obviously just make it with high jump. One step further and we'll get our warm welcome to this place.
No vessel, no help from the Heartless. So tell me, how'd you get here?
I simply believed. Nothing more to it. When our world fell into darkness, Belle was taken from me. I vowed I would find her again, no matter what the cost. I believed I would find her.
The Beast, referred to in fan circles as Prince Adam, is one of the most certified badasses in all of Kingdom Hearts canon. Maintaining his original screen voice, I love those guttural rumbles Robbie Benson can achieve.
So here I am. She must be here. I will have her back!
Take her if you can.
He's the best proof I have that anyone can travel the disparate worlds if they believe in their heart that they can. Though to hear Maleficent talk about it, it sounds like it may take far more strength and willpower than most people can display. There's a possibility that Beast and Riku have something in common. Remember, this is where Riku first touched down after Destiny Island was destroyed, and I think we can be reasonably certain it's because this world is as close to the darkness as he was in that moment. There's no doubt in my mind, Adam is capable of holding just as much darkness in his heart, and may have been drawn here in much the same way.
Stop!
So, you finally made it. About time. I've been waiting for you. We've always been rivals, haven't we? You've always pushed me, as I've always pushed you.
Riku!
But it all ends here. There can't be two Keyblade Masters.
What are you talking about?
Let the Keyblade choose. Its true master. Maleficent was right. You don't have what it takes to save Kairi. It's up to me. Only the Keyblade Master can open the secret door and change the world.
But that's impossible. How did this happen? I'm the one who fought my way here with the Keyblade!
You were just the delivery boy. Sorry, your part's over now. Here, go play hero with this.
Perhaps the most painful thing about this is how bright he is. Just look at the Kingdom Key in his hands. It's like it was made for him. Same palette and all. Even the way he holds it just looks more natural. This was foreshadowed in a few ways. Most prominently, this scene, where Riku holds it without it warping back to Sora. But listen to the question he asks.
So this is called a Keyblade?
That is not something you ask in this situation. It'd be more reasonable to wonder where Sora got it, what makes it special, what does it mean to be the Keyblade Master, but instead he goes, oh, is that what this is called? In other words, he's seen it before. What's more, he could have even used it, and may well be the reason the door to the heart of Destiny Islands was flung open. So then, how did Sora get a hold of it in the first place? We'll have to keep going to get more clues, but not before another punch to the gut.
Goofy, let's go. We have to remember our mission.
Oh, well, I know the king told us to follow the key and all, but...
Sora, sorry.
Hey, don't move! You're hurt!
Why did you come here? I came to fight for Belle. And though I am on my own, I will fight won't leave without her. That's why I'm here.
I adore that Beast in this moment represents something primal within Sora, like he's speaking for Sora's own internal rage and will to fight. We may have lost it all, but as long as we're still breathing, we push onwards. This moment, this instant, is frozen in time for me. I will always remember this feeling of rock bottom, the twilight sky overhead signaling that the sun is setting on our adventure, Sora reduced to wielding the toy we played with before it all went to hell, a twisted monkey paw to the halcyon childhood we've been fighting this whole time to reclaim, with no one at our back but this embodiment of bestial fury and this rotting corpse of a palace casting its shadow upon us. Nowhere to go but up. Before we take our first steps, let's take a look at the Beast. He is, quite simply, the strongest party member in the game, packing the highest HP, strength, defense, and item slots of anyone we've allied with. Though he has the lowest max MP of anyone alongside Aladdin, he obviously doesn't need it, coming readily packaged with 2 MP Rages and Second Wind. Thank God for all of that, because he is going to be babysitting the heck out of us as we storm the castle. Wait, record scratch, hold up. You're telling me Goofy has the lowest defense stat of any character? That can't be right. It just can't. Sora's attacks now do nothing. Just as when Shadows first invaded our island, this wooden sword has no effect. We can't use limits, we don't have enough party members to use summons, and even our magical finisher, Ripple Drive, does no damage. We do still have access to our basic magic, thank goodness, but we don't reap the benefits of any MP boosts our favorite Keyblades may have had. And the enemy defense stats have finally caught up to the power of our upgraded spells. But it's far from nothing. This is also the most useful Gravity Break will ever be, as the only means we have of dealing damage without spending MP. Hitting enemies with your regular attacks does still fill your MP bar, so it's not strictly pointless, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you'd rather just stock up on ethers. Now the front doors are unfortunately locked. One might almost think we're not welcome, so we're gonna have to find an alternate path. Hollow Bastion's main gimmick are these lifts, summoned and activated by these crystals. They'll be ferrying us all around this gothic nightmare and can create a sort of disconnect with its actual layout. It'll feel a bit like we're just teleporting around at times, which can be a bit disorienting. This is the final stretch of the game that I would label a dungeon. There will be puzzles and navigational challenges galore, so keep your wits about you, or you may wind up running in circles. The first hosts to welcome us to the party are Dark Balls. In many ways, these are basically more advanced forms of shadows, using periods of invincibility to reposition, but still relying on short-ranged melee attacks. They're a bit more volatile, but funnily enough, not that much tougher, since the Hollow Bastion variety shadows are up to 54 HP. Not that Beast is gonna have any trouble shredding them to wisps. We have options of progression right now. We can either take this lift down or simply drop down the void. Both will get us where we're going. If you're feeling super fancy, you could abuse the collision on this gate to glide up to the top of this arch, and from there, glide across the architecture to get way ahead of ourselves. But rest assured, if you get too deep into the castle on this side, all that's awaiting you is a soft lock. You can still access some chests early if you want, an Orichalcum, a Gummi, and some puppies, but do not go into this next room unless you're deathly curious and you just saved. The only other thing we can do up here is admire this place. Hollow Bastion is frankly the most stunning structure I have ever had the pleasure to explore within a video game. Every detail worth appreciating, from the intricate stonework to the stained glass to the copper pipes gouging out the pristine marble. The lifts have this floral thorn aesthetic lest you forget who's running this show, and the heartless imagery speckled around gets the gears turning in my head. Was this always their stronghold, or is this castle where the symbol originates? Did it used to mean something different? What are these pipes for? What is this strange exhaust they're spewing? It's as though this world is on life support, desperately clinging to itself to keep from crumbling, sacrificing brick by tainted brick to the ever-encroaching disease of industrial metal. And the music! Oh, honey, oh, baby! As imposing as the towering structure above us, yet so light and airy in its instrumentation. The feeling of faded grandeur, that this once must have been the very seat of power, something people looked up to with a sense of safety and hope, before it all veritably collapsed in on itself. I can barely find the words. Let's settle for these. In a medium built on the castles of bad guys, Hollow Bastion rules them all. In a way, it's almost a microcosm of Kingdom Hearts in itself, the meeting of a classic Disney castle and Final Fantasy's heavy steampunk influence, and it makes something so striking, so unique. Even the name is brilliant. A bastion, something built to protect, reduced to an empty shell. A hollow monument to all the denizens it failed to safeguard, now infested with nothing but shadows and wasted opulence. Now, let's do what we do. This opening area is functionally empty but for two bubbles. One will take us into the castle waterways, the other to another secluded outer area. The waterway has a treasure and a save point, which we may want to make use of, but we're gonna stick to the outside for now. We can use this block to hop up these ledges overlooking that initial area, and grab a number of treasures, in addition to activating this crystal switch. It's funny, Hollow Bastion really doesn't feel like it was built around the ability to glide, despite the fact it's impossible to be here without it. But, oh well. We'll just pretend gravity has a greater hold on us than it does for the moment. We can push this block to reach the second upper ledge and throw another switch, which gives us access to this balcony. You good, Beast? You know what? You've given me an idea. What if we push this block in such a way that we can fall infinitely? Then it will break just like the old Destiny Islands boulder. Not that we needed it in the first place, but hey, at least there's a world in which you could have reached this point without high jump. So this is sort of a soft block, right? Weirdly, no. This crystal switch here can be used to get yourself a new block, so some crazy fiend at Square accounted for that. If we enter the waterway through this upper path, call on Beast to obliterate this gate, we'll find that somewhat elaborate sequence was all for the sake of one Gummi. That's strange, but this is sort of a teaching moment too. Since there's nothing in this room but the gate, you're more likely to approach it and notice the interactable, which in turn gives you a bit of transferable knowledge you can apply back by the save point. It also shows you this chest positioned above that same breakable gate, the only way you might reasonably know there's something worth getting up there. But there's no jump high enough. Unless we could somehow jump on the bubble here, we haven't got a foothold. If only we could, by God, if only there were some way to freeze the bubbles! I honestly completely get why this is the top of the Kingdom Hearts iceberg, cause it should be so obvious. It's staring you right in the face, but the game has taught you to use your magic to interact with the world just rarely enough no one thinks to try this, and yet it recontextualizes so much of this world's level design. A dark matter ain't no small potato either, so the steps to solving this puzzle are worth the payoff. Use that bubble we just epically froze, and we can get into the meat of the waterways. Right next to where we pop out is a stone door Beast can smash, and inside are a few more gummies, a trinity we'll have to keep in mind, and a little table with a candelabra that makes me think this must be someone's secret workspace or something. Kinda cozy if not for this guy. Oh wait, dungeon? Okay, maybe not. This place is filled with switches that slide these gates from place to place. Don't get intimidated, this really is just a matter of pressing each of the 4 switches in the order you reach them. Shout out to my boy Elbow Juice for figuring out that these extra switches in the corners, which almost look like you could puzzle your way to them, are completely non-functional. Take another bubble trip, hit another switch, and our path will be blocked by a defender. One of the coolest enemy designs I've ever seen. I had played through this game multiple times before I realized it wasn't some sort of lion, it was just a guy holding a sentient lion shield, and it is so creative. Essentially the heartless counterpart of Goofy, the Defender's shield is unique in its ability to block all physical attacks and even some magic. The wielder is not unlike a large body, heavily set and packing plenty of HP, along with a damage cap that lets him keep on coming. Gravity is your best bet here, but they have just enough resistance that I can't one-shot him as is. Overall, one of the most formidable regular Heartless we've come up against. One more switch, this one to the front gates, and all that's left is to retrace our steps and break down that fancy door. Before we head back topside though, I want to point out this area we're in now, because it's kinda hard to tell what this is relative to the rest of the castle. Official art of Hollow Bastion, in addition to its world model, depicts this shadow of the palace mirroring it in these crystal caverns within the crater it's rising out of. It's a shame this is the extent of it we get to see, cause man, I like these pictures. There they all are, the princesses that graced the beginning of our journey, along with Alice and Jasmine, the culmination of Maleficent's plans, and such striking imagery. More and more parallels to the original Disney princess's glass coffin, especially this setup they've got Kairi in.
Oh, purest of hearts, reveal to me the keyhole!
all you can.
God, that delivery was ice cold. This scene truly deserves to play without my yapping. Take it away.
Wrong, Riku. The darkness may destroy my body, but it can't touch my heart. My heart will stay with my friends. It'll never die.
Really? Well, we'll just see about that.
Ah!
Sora ain't gonna go anywhere.
You'd betray your king?
Not on your life. But I'm not gonna betray Sora either, 'cause he's become one of my best buddies after all we've been through together. See you later, Donald. Could you tell the king I'm really sorry?
Hold on, Goofy! We'll tell them together! Well, you know, out for one and right for all.
I guess you're stuck with us, Sora.
Thanks a lot, Donald. Goofy.
How will you fight without a weapon?
I know now I don't need the Keyblade. I've got a better weapon. My heart!
Your heart? What good will that weak little thing do for you?
Although my heart may be weak, it's not alone. It's grown with each new experience, and it's found a home with all the friends I've made. I've become part of their heart just as they've become a part of mine. And if they think of me now and then, if they don't forget me, then our hearts will be one. I don't need a weapon. My friends are my power.
The biggest trick Kingdom Hearts ever played on you was the idea that the Disney worlds weren't important. That in the face of how beloved the original worlds are, Destiny Islands, Traverse Town, Hollow Bastion, they'd be better off setting the entire game in new and equally creative settings, and to leave all the Disney baggage behind. I have talked extensively about the ideas and mechanics each of the Disney worlds brings across, and how well they've lined up with their source material. But there's been another side to each coin. Wonderland was equal parts cerebral and mad, testing us in the face of how bizarre things could get, and yet, just like Alice's original journey, the fantastical wonderment was never enough to obfuscate good from evil. Olympus, so combat-centric, pushing our ability to manage resources and face down steep odds, but it was never tougher than when we took it on alone. Sora, and by extension we, felt the impact of fighting alongside our teammates and friends. Deep Jungle laid out obstacle after obstacle to challenge our means of traversal until the breadth of the space was immaterial, and Tarzan hammered home the lesson that distance doesn't matter when your loved ones are in your heart. So on and so forth to bring Sora to this point, where he feels the truth of his words before he says them. The line, "My friends are my power," though it's transcended this moment and become one of the many things people like to poke fun at for its corniness, is so utterly heartfelt and earnest, it is powerful. And it's because the meaning has been conveyed on every step of our journey. It was always going to come to this. One more duel to settle the score. Dark Riku fights with a ferocity that makes it plain just how much he was holding back in his original battle. He attacks constantly, is immune to all magic but summons, and just like Tidus said long ago, is entirely capable of taking us on 3-1. Here's the deal. He only has 3 melee attacks, a dash, a jump, and a spin. He did launch that Dark Firaga at us in the cutscene, but I guess Maleficent only gave him enough MP for one shot. And if it were just a question of evading him, this would be no problem. But eventually, we're gonna have to get our licks in, and find out that we're just as outclassed as ever. The biggest issue is that his retaliation counter is back, and every time you land 3 hits, he'll lash out immediately. No nice and cushy telegraphed kick, this slash is instant. This is just the start of Riku's incredibly reactive fighting style. The trouble is, he just feels so damn smart and cautious. He can sidestep in reaction to you getting too close. If you parry his attacks, he won't wait around for you to follow up, instead immediately leaping back. You can barely find space to heal with how much ground he can cover. And he's even immune to Aurora. No one is immune to Aurora. I didn't even know anyone could be. I tried. I really did. I wanted to take him on, rival to rival, just like old times. But it turns out, what was true then is even truer now. We're not an even match. However, that killer speech Sora gave back there wasn't just words. We got Donald, Goofy, and perhaps most importantly, Tinkerbell. There's no clean strategy here. No amount of information I could give you on his hitboxes. He's gonna hit you, and he's gonna KO your power over and over again. But with a little faith, trust, and pixie dust, you can turn this into a war of attrition that would make a Pokemon champion proud. We're adopting an entirely new mindset for this one. You are now the Team Cleric. You can get an occasional safe hit in on Riku, but the real issue is, I genuinely can't tell if Dobert and Goofert's attacks affect Riku's retaliation counter, so it's like every hit is a roll of the dice. There are two ways I've figured out how to land an attack. One is to basically hit him on the back of his head with an aerial swing. I'd say you may want to equip a longer Keyblade for this, but unless you have a save from the beginning of the world, you ain't swapping. The other is our old duelist fallback. Wait until he takes to the air, and bish bash bosh. Whichever approach you take, just keep your distance until Tink gets you to full health. Use the intervening time to get your boys back on their feet, and repeat the process. If you take one hit too many and find yourself suddenly down one pixie, there is a cheesy strat you can fall back on. The upper area of this hall isn't blocked off, and if you head up these stairs, Riku will eventually stop taking out his anger on the crown molding and hop up to you. You can channel your inner revenge of the Sith, get your free licks in, hurry over to the other side, and repeat. It's a tedious process, but it could be much worse. I want to take this opportunity to talk about damage floors. They are just about the only thing that makes level 1 runs bearable. See, right now, with Spellbinder, Ray of Light, and a magic armlet, and not having used any stat boosters for fear of not being considered a true gamer, Sora has 8 strength. When pitted against Dark Riku's 24 defense, we are literally dozens of points below the minimum damage threshold of 2 we established back in Atlantica. So in theory, it should take 250 hits to whittle down Riku's 500 health, but instead it takes, at most, 63. The reason is related to yet another hidden property of EXP0. When facing an opponent with 300 HP or more, Sora's minimum base damage is raised to a number decided by this formula. Max HP over 300 plus 4. So the least damage we can do to someone like Preliminary Cloud is 5. And against someone as tanky as Hook, a neat 7. Still a bit pathetic, but it essentially ensures we won't be chipping away for 20 minutes. Now if you paused and did the math on Riku, first of all, I'm flattered, but second of all, I can explain the discrepancy. This Riku fight has a completely unique damage floor all its own, and it even comes into play if you don't have EXP0 equipped. He cannot take less than 8 damage unless you hit him with something he's immune to. I must say, credit for these calculations goes to Drake Blackwell, KSX, and DC Seth, doing the Lord's work, you three. Now there's another significant chunk to all this that I'll tackle later, but as it stands, it's more than enough to turn what could have been a mighty slog into a mere uphill battle. And I suspect they may have even done it to turn this little reuniting of the trio into a real triumph, ensuring they can put in work even if they're still rocking their original weapons. I want to talk about Riku's design, both his classic island wear and that hula skirt muscle suit he was just rocking. You might have taken one look at these crazy double pants he was wearing and wondered who let him dress himself that way, but what they lack in fashion, they account for in function. These are waders, waterproof garments you can fasten around the ankles like that to keep your pants dry if you plan on tromping around in a lake or indeed the ocean. Another subtle nod that Riku's better suited to leaving the safe shore of the island than the rest. But all the cooler when you consider that the game has used water as a metaphor for darkness, symbolizing Riku's willingness to wade into it while Sora is more exposed and vulnerable. Then there's Riku's weapon. Though never mentioned within the game, this sweet bat-winged sword is called Soul Eater, and was presumably given to him by Maleficent. By itself, there's nothing expressly special about it. It can vanquish Heartless, but that seems to be the case for everything but Sora's wooden sword. Though its wing design is notable for the way Riku is drawn with it in the game's promotional art. Between this and this other picture, he's almost always depicted in a way that makes him look like he has wings. I honestly don't know if that's symbolically significant, but it sure as heck is cool. As for his angsty pajamas, they're basically an extension of Soul Eater, with the empty Heartless emblem and primarily purple palette obviously showing how cozy he's getting to the darkness. Or at least it would, if the final mix recolors hadn't gotten rid of all the purple. We can now begin exploring the castle, though we're a bit limited to the foyer here. Not like I need that much more, I mean look at this place. The Heartless motif on the carpet, the subtle reflections of the columns in the marble. You can slide down this banister, well, Kinda, I mean, points for trying. All these pots on the perimeter are breakable and contain HP, so you can really get your Zelda on during the fight if you want, but they restore so little and Riku's so relentless, I don't know how much mileage you'll get out of it. Though they can drop potions and even high potions. They've got a distinct fleur-de-lis-esque design on them, which you can also see throughout a lot of the decor. Worth thinking about. And don't carry on until you've appreciated that chandelier. We can check out this hallway upstairs and find this very intricate lock even the Keyblade won't crack, but we can make her feel a bit better by popping open this chest cleverly hidden in the top of this room. Funny thing about this actually, remember how we could sequence break our way over to the other end of the castle gates area? Well, if we went inside the castle from there, we could enter this room from behind, and even grab this locked chest, which the wooden sword unlocks no issue. Something ain't lining up here. Now we could hunt for the keys to that door, but first, we've unlocked White Trinity, the final and ultimate Trinity technique, which we can make use of right now back in the Rising Falls. It may look kinda similar to the Blue Trinity technique, but trust me, this is what true friendship looks like. That one's just a gummy, and there is that Blue Trinity back in the basement you could get now if you want, but know that there will be a convenient shortcut to it later if you don't feel like backtracking now. Otherwise, you may recall seeing a White Trinity in literally every world we've visited. I'm not gonna go over them all right now, and most of them aren't terribly mind-blowing, but I, and basically everyone else, can highly recommend taking a quick detour over to Wonderland. Head into the forest, to the bazaar room, get to the opposite wall using the fireplace, and through the painting. And this White Trinity mark will give you Lady Luck, very nearly a direct upgrade to Spellbinder, and by extension, one of the best Keyblades in the game. I do want to point out though, if you're on a level 1 playthrough, Spellbinder is still better. Remember, strength doesn't matter because of that whole damage floor thing, so Spellbinder's better recoil is just objectively superior. I'm so sorry if this is how you found out. I don't have a hot take about its design, this is one of the best on that front too. I like how every card suit is represented, not just in the design but the particle effects as well. It's also just interesting how Wonderlands is the only Disney Keyblade you don't get as a direct result of beating the boss. Really makes it stand out as a sort of secret weapon. Back in the castle, the only way to go now is through this side door to the library, a room I've actually been dreading for this entire project. This room is filled to the brim with inscrutable details that I have always been curious to decipher, but there's almost nothing to latch onto. These books got butterflies on them, that's all I got for sure. The room is built around a puzzle of matching up books to shelves. There's not much to it, it won't even let you get it wrong, but all these missing books have names. That red one was Kama Volume 8, and as we pick apart this knot of moving bookshelves, we'll find books called Theon, Mava, Saleg, Neheru, Azal, Mava again, and Hafet. Despite what most of us expected, these names have yet to pop up again in Kingdom Hearts canon, though many people will be quick to point out that some of the names of the foretellers introduced in one of the prequels are almost a little bit similar if you squint really hard and close both eyes. While I have no proof what similarities there aren't intentional, given what I know about Nomura's approach to continuity, I'm confident that if he wanted a connection here, he would have just written it that way. Instead, these 7 names seem to have been grabbed almost at random from Judaism and a few other scattered mythologies. I have to assume just cause they sounded cool. Or maybe this'll still get a payoff in Kingdom Hearts Scattered Parables 0-point decks over Dante from the Devil May Cry series, who can say. What I can be mercifully sure of is that this room is the very same Sora saw in that Kyrie dream sequence hallucination flashback thingy, which is cool. You can't always be sure you'll be able to explore places you've only seen in cutscenes, and it makes the universe feel big and lived in. The room itself has plenty of goodies together, a chest on top of these bookshelves, and these funny column roulette wheels. Sora, you could just turn them one section at a time, but thanks for keeping it fun. If you get every book back on its shelf, you'll unlock this secret entrance to the lift stop, a maze of force fields and elevators that run the entire height of the castle. There's only one lift to take from this spot though, and it will take us all the way up to the top. At first glance there's nothing here, but this chest hovering out of reach can be brought to our level with gravity. In Osmos Gummi may not seem a prize worthy of everything we did to get here, but the real treasure is for looking up. It is a universal truth that gamers don't look above them. It's not our fault, we're not usually taught to, but how foolish we all were, never knowing a view like this was hovering just out of sight. The flecks of magic sparkling in the air, there's even an adaptive light source similar to the Destiny Island sun, and it makes it all the more breathtaking. Head back down when you're done taking it all in, and don't miss out on this trio of pups hanging out on another gravity platform. 97, 98, and 99. It's curious that the numbers of the puppies in each chest are almost completely nonsensical. They may as well have just decided them all at random, but it does feel very deliberate that pups 1, 2, and 3 are in Traverse Town, and the last 3 are in Hollow Bastion. They're all gathered in the dining room, one by the display window thing, one tucked behind the lamp, and one's made a friend by the china cabinet. Last thing I want to point out in the library, it's a rare room almost untouched by the steaming pipes, save for a few creeping in from the ceiling. These ones have actually entangled this chandelier, almost as though they're roots burrowing through the castle like some sort of invasive plant. It reminds me very much of Studio Ghibli's Castle in the Sky, and given how much of a seminal figure Hayao Miyazaki is, especially in Japanese culture, it would not surprise me if that was the inspiration, though this is undeniably a really compelling twist on the imagery. All that's left here is to push this secret button behind the bookshelf and advance to the second floor of the entrance hall, where we can set about gathering the 4 emblem pieces we need. We can reveal one inside this statue by pushing it off the ledge, destroy the pots by this statue to activate the fountain down below, push this statue into place to spawn a chest, then we hit this stone with thunder to activate some helpful platforms, and finally light all the candles to disarm the fire on the chandelier to reveal piece number 4. Now just to gather the ones below. I like that the water in here remains consistent with this world's rules, becoming a solid surface once it's pooled. And this chest is kinda funny, just an odd interaction that plays the treasure sound twice. The Heartless emblem is pretty cool on its own. Apart from being an X'd out heart, it's meant to look like a rosebud, complete with thorns.
Why? It was mine.
Know this. The heart that is strong and true shall win the Keyblade.
What? You're saying my heart's weaker than his?
For that instant it was. However, you can become stronger.
By the time you first see this cutscene, it's entirely possible you'll have forgotten about the random cloaked figure from the beginning of the game. Once again, it bears noticing that Riku doesn't react as though it's his first time seeing this, and perhaps he's been whispering in Riku's ear this whole time.
You showed no fear in stepping through the door to darkness. It held no terror for you. Plunge deeper into the darkness, and your heart will grow even stronger.
What should I do?
It's really quite simple. Open yourself to the darkness. That is all. Let your heart, your being, become darkness itself.
Now we're granted proper access to the lift stop, and this is where Hollow Bastion really branches off. Before we start digging into the various routes, there's another defender here, and now that we've got Goofy back with us, I want to point out his rarest drop. He has a 0.2% chance of dropping his shield as one equipable to Goofy. This is tied for the lowest drop rate of anything in this game, and there's no other way to get it. It's a nice shield, in fact, by far the best we could possibly have by this point, but the main reason you'd want to go to the trouble is the achievement for obtaining all of Goofy's weapons. By this point in the game, it's not unreasonable that all 3 of the main party members will have unlocked a Lucky Strike ability, each one multiplying enemy drop rates by an additive 50%. So with all 3, we can get the defender a generous 0.5% of the time, but don't go out of your way to grind for it here and now. There'll be a better place later. We're gonna ignore the lifts themselves for now, and head out to the castle gates, where we'll be swarmed by wyverns, the heartless kings of the sky. Though not quite as tanky or well-armed as battleships, they are extremely quick and maneuverable, and tend to hang out where losing your footing can be costly. At this stage in the game, gravity really is your best friend. With enemy HP and defense climbing ever higher, an attack that basically ignores all that is a godsend. We've gained access to that upper area we cheekily snuck onto earlier, so we can grab all those treasures legitimately. And with one more gravity platform, rescue yet more puppies. That brings us up to 90. Only one trio of trios to go, and we're gifted another tech boost ability. Another tool to keep in our back pocket for when we feel like making a break for level 100. There's one plonked right in the middle of the living room floor, one fixing to cause havoc with this lamp in the lounge, and I like the cut of this one's jib.
One day, my son, all of this will be yours. Everything the light of the team touches.
Let's double back for now and take this lift downward. This route leads back to the waterways. After clearing out some defenders, a quartet of wizards will appear. If defenders are Goofy's enemy counterpart, wizards are undoubtedly Donald's, and they are one of the most interesting Heartless in their ranks. I like to imagine that in much the same way guard armors are essentially the commanders of the soldiers, these guys are in command of the prismatic melodies, either absorbing or resisting every specific variety of magic and wielding fire, ice, and lightning with expertise to rival our own. They've also got a ton of personality. They're kind of show-offs or competitive with their magic, and if you hit them with one of the varieties they're immune to, they'll always immediately counter with their own take on the spell. This can be especially dangerous with Thunder as it makes them immune to physical attacks. They can be tricky to take down, but this is where you can really go nuts with summons. Bambi is great as always for fueling a rampage of Graviras and Auroras, but this is the first time I can really recommend Simba since, like, Agrabah, as his non-elemental infinite range attack works wonders in rooms with as many enemies as this one. And now that we've essentially upgraded our summons by gathering 2 cheer abilities, Goofy's from Monstro, Sora's from the Woods, Simba's damage is frankly obscene. His Proud Roar charges in stages. Each one does more damage than the last, with even the first stage still outpacing Thundara. The 4th stage is Overkill, and then the 5th stage completely changes the rules, switching from non-elemental damage to gravity with an absurd 300% of the enemy's health as its base. The equivalent of casting Gravira with an MP stat of 49. No regular enemy can survive it. And naturally, as the defenders get an ultra rare drop for Goofy, the wizards get one for Donald. The Wizard's Relic is also the best possible weapon we can currently have for him, and it's not even close. But likewise, I wouldn't farm him just yet if I had a choice. That being said, I did somehow manage to get not 1, but 2 of them just while gathering footage, but please, for your own sake, do as I say and not as I do. You can use one of the stone elevators to get back to the dungeon, a great time to nab that blue trinity now if you didn't slog back to it earlier. And it's also worth noting that pretty much every enemy spawn has changed now that the boys are back in town, and it's even possible to encounter some black fungi here in the dungeon, probably their least well-known appearance. If we take this other elevator, it'll drop us by an odd lift switch, which just gives us some items? I certainly ain't complaining, but why doesn't it operate a lift? Back where we first branched off, toggle this orange switch to make the lift that took us down take us up, and we can ride it over to another gravity chest, this time with Orichalcum. That's everything outside the critical path, but one last thing before we leave the lift stop for now. There's a loading zone at the bottom of this place that goes completely unused, since you can never get past these invisible walls to fall down there. But if you ever did, you would fall into the waterways. Big thanks to Rebellious Trico both for making that discovery and for providing me with footage of it. Now these lifts give this area a similar challenge to Halloween Town, forcing you to clear an area of enemies before you can interact with the crystals. But once we use this one outside, it'll take us up to what we might consider the castle's 2nd level. It's always gratifying to be able to look down at a level you've just explored beneath you, and this is the money shot right here. The gigantic Heartless emblem emblazoned onto the front of the castle. Another network of pipes pumping who knows what. Which leads me to a theory I have. Is this world a Heartless? It's not as far-fetched as it may sound. People turn into Heartless when one takes their heart, who's to say the same wouldn't be true of worlds? Well, we know a world falling to darkness doesn't leave a cutesy one with yellow eyes in its place, it straight up vanishes, so then what if this world is on the brink of falling to darkness? But all these machines are here to essentially pump artificial or external light through its veins. There's very little concrete I have to stake that theory on, but it sure feels good, doesn't it? If we fall from this area, naturally we wind up back at the gates, so nothing else but to zoop back up and board this suspiciously arena-shaped giant lift. Now we can relax and enjoy a nice leisurely cruise across the sky as we admire the castle's tragic majesty. Nope, never mind, now it's a party. Honestly, I was expecting more of an ordeal than 3 wizards, but I don't mind. If you quickly turn around after disembarking, you can watch the lift zoom back. Oddly, there's no call switch for it on this side, so I suppose people get back down by jumping. That's pretty metal. There's a chest over here with a gummy, and a blue trinity which gives us a mega elixir. Can never have enough of those. Here's an oddity. This doorway leads back into the lift stop. Not another one in the castle's other tower, the same one. Beautiful stained glass ceiling and all. There's continuity on everything we did in the other one, and yet it seems entirely sold to us as a separate room on the opposite end of the castle. It's certainly thrifty and can make the castle feel much bigger than it is, but even as a kid, this kinda threw me for a loop. Let's just ignore it and head up to the 3rd level of the Bastion. This area is home to one of the coolest and easiest speedrunner skips in this game. It's essentially a multi-room half puzzle where we need to manipulate this giant Heartless crest into making a staircase. But we can skip all of it by summoning Dumbo, floating our elephantine asses up to the next layer, and dismissing. Easy as can be. Now that would make me feel bad for the level designers, and I would be very anxious about missing anything, so I'll leave that to the speedrunners. But what we can do slightly prematurely is glide on over to beneath the crest and enter this secret door. Alright, I guess given the position here, there is meant to be only one lift stop and it's somewhere in the middle of the castle? I don't know, no matter how you slice it, there's a lot of long hallways getting cut out of the deal here. But who cares? The chest in that room contains the Royal Crown. A pretty good deal for Final Mix players. In the original game, that was yet another Gummi, but the crown is one of the best items in the entire game, boosting MP by 2, 3 elemental resistances, but in exchange for reducing strength by 3. My level 1 file's having a field day with this one. Only way down from here is to drop, but as you may expect, it's not much of a hike to get back. Activate this switch near the blocks to lower 1, then once more through the lift stop. We pop out on the other side of the big emblem blocks, where we can find another gravity chest, they really want you to have that mechanic in mind, and another switch to lower the blocks. I did this backwards because I'm really good at this game and definitely didn't forget about the first switch. Oh, and don't worry, there's nothing stopping you from accessing this secret door once you've lowered the blocks, it just looks silly. Once you get up to the next layer, hit this switch to revert the left block and you can get another Mega Elixir. Then use this switch to alter this lift track, which you might just recognize from earlier in the castle. Tell you what, I'll backtrack now, and if you're following along, you can decide if it's worth it. If we head back through the secret bookcase door in the library, ride the lift all the way back up, go right instead of left, get to the other half of the lift stop platform, and use gravity, we get a Ramu belt. The second accessory we've gotten to be named after a Final Fantasy summon after the Ifrit horn we got way back when we beat Trickmaster. This raises thunder resistance by 40% and gives a nice hunk of 3 AP. It's not useless, in fact if you skipped Atlantica, this makes Big Ursula's lightning way more manageable, but it's a long way to go, and frankly I'd always prefer to have Thundara early. I'm certainly not gonna equip it, but hey, on the way back I noticed this funny interaction with the MP orbs in the giant lift, so not a total loss. There's also some fun continuity with this lift in the upper area. You can see this especially big lift tether chilling in open air here, which even lines up with some concept art. Another thanks to Rebellious Trico for making that connection. Last cool detail on the exterior, the high central tower here appears to have some all-seeing eye imagery on it. And man, let me tell you, they did not skimp on the scale of this place. They could have absolutely done these upper towers in some forced perspective, but instead they just modeled them in full, and I can respect that.
So, I see the path has emerged at last.
Yes. The keyhole to the darkness.
Unlock it, and the Heartless will overrun this world.
What do I care? The darkness holds no power over me. Rather, I will use its power to rule all worlds.
Such confidence.
Oh. Ah, impossible! The princesses of Heart are all here. It must be her.
I doubt this scene makes a lot of sense if you haven't already played the game. I'm not even sure it makes total sense to people who have. It reveals a lot while simultaneously leaving almost everything unsaid. Basically, Maleficent has used the Princesses of Heart to both reveal this keyhole to the darkness and to construct this special Keyblade. But then the game seems to assume that we, the audience, know what this Keyblade is supposed to look like, which I can gather after looking at it for more than 38 frames. But yes, because Kairi, the selfish ditz, is holding out, her piece of both the Keyblade and Keyhole didn't make it to the party. Wait a second, they needed Kairi?
Without her heart, she will never be able to release her power.
This also explains why Maleficent took Riku under her wing. She needed a Keyblade wielder to unlock this keyhole and enact her evil plan, and was manipulating Riku from the start to get him to take it from Sora. As for why Riku is suddenly wielding his own Keyblade despite us having Lady Luck safely in hand, well, I gotta talk about this line.
There can't be two Keyblade Masters.
This has got to be the most notorious localization change I've seen within any Japan-developed game. I mentioned this once upon a time, but the term Keyblade Master is never used in the original Japanese text. Not until future games wrote in the concept of masters and apprentices. I'm fine chalking that up to a retcon, but it makes just as much sense to me for the characters in this game to be a bit misinformed, or lacking perspective. But Riku here is just demonstrably wrong like half an hour after he says it. Originally, he said something more along the lines of, this story doesn't need two heroes. I will agree, that does suit Riku's role in the story a bit better. If not for the dark influences, he probably would have been the hero, but I find the translation to be somewhat overly maligned. Yes, he's wrong, and set people up with a certain expectation that would go on to be shattered, but he's no more correct in the original. This tale has room for plenty of heroes, which only multiply as the series goes on. What he's saying in this scene, in either language, isn't objective fact, and was never meant to be read as such. He's just talking mad shit to make Sora feel small and worthless. He probably believes what he's saying is true, but all of his information comes from Maleficent, the lies she wove to get him to this point. Japanese or English, he's basically parroting propaganda he doesn't fully understand, so I really don't have any problem with the localization here.
The king's fools are here. I'll deal with them myself. I'm afraid you're too late. Any moment now, the final keyhole will be unsealed. This world will be plunged into darkness. It is unstoppable.
We'll stop it! After coming this far, there's no way we're gonna let that happen.
You poor, simple fools. You think you can defeat me? Me, the mistress of all evil!
Maleficent, the queen of the baddies, what we've been building up towards since Traverse Town, and one of the most imposing foes we've ever fought. I love that she's been interpreted through the Final Fantasy lens as basically a level 99 black mage, wielding some of that series' most powerful magic, with some of the most impressive animations in this game. In the end though, she winds up being a lot of shock and awe, and is far from the toughest we've had to contend with. She has one major gimmick. She's not exactly rocking a tracksuit, so to maintain her mobility and her vibes, she spends the entire battle atop an enchanted platform. This platform has its own HP and other stats, but none of them particularly matter. While you could smack it around a bit until it falls down, just like so many of the platforms around the castle, this thing is completely vulnerable to gravity. More than that, in fact, no matter your MP, it will always fall to a single spell. This will also interrupt Maleficent herself no matter what attack she's in the middle of. And what's especially nice, while the platform is grounded, she'll just never use her most dangerous attack, Dark Thundaga. Nice to check that one off the list. All but one of her remaining 4 attacks are also incredibly easy to bypass. Summon Heartless will always summon either a pair of Dark Balls or a pair of Defenders. While Defenders are clearly the tougher foe, we actually want them on the field, because until they're dealt with, she'll never spawn more friends. And Dark Balls are much more capable of pursuing you across the battlefield than these ponderous protectors. Luckily, Maleficent, I'm just gonna call her Melissa from now on, Melissa will also never spawn Dark Balls as long as you're standing on her platform with her. So that's Gravity 2, Melissa's moveset 0. Third on the list is Meteor. I am a huge sucker for any big baddie that summons the Cosmos over the course of an attack, but this is laughably easy to dodge. If she uses it from the round end of the battlefield, you can just hang off to the sides. And from the skinny end, tuck yourself behind the galaxy, a sentence I feel truly blessed to have an excuse to utter. Next up is the Staff Swing, a very simple melee attack she can use while you're in spitting distance, and I think she may have learned this one from Oogie Boogie. It is just a little pathetic, especially since she can't turn around and can't even use this attack if you just stand on her cape. The last is the only one that should reasonably hit you, Vanish, where she basically casts Hitbox on her little platform before relocating to the other end of the room. Our game plan here is almost anticlimactically simple. First of all, there's basically no reason not to summon Tinkerbell off the bat. She keeps your MP free for gravity, can make sure Gooflora and Donna keep the defenders occupied, and Maleficent is resistant to anything the other summons could throw her way anyway. You're going to want to use gravity on the platform each time it settles into one of its 2 home locations, and then hop up and start buzzing in Melissa's face like a mosquito. Now I actually do recommend keeping in front of her because you want her to use Staff Swing and not Meteor. As long as you stick to air combos, you'll always clank the swing regardless, and can keep that up until she does call in the comets, at which point shuffle off to one of your safe zones and resume. If she knocks you off with Vanish, reset and repeat the whole process. Otherwise, her only other course of action is to move the whole operation, you included, to the other side of the room. Stick to ground combos in this case, and you can get in a bit more damage. It's worth noting, with a bit of fancy footwork, you can keep your spot on her platform despite her best efforts, but if you manage it, she'll immediately use Vanish again, so just keep your feet on the ground until she's ready and continue the cycle. You may be wondering what the defenders are doing this whole time. Their best. A few rounds of all that, and she'll fall just as easily as her platform. That was the furthest stretch between save points we've ever had. The last one was in the library. You may have even gotten some use out of the menu-only healing items along the way, but odds are, you probably just died and respawned one room back at full health. There may be a dodge roll, but this ain't no Souls-like. Though we've actually seen a ton of this room throughout the game, I see no reason not to take this moment to appreciate it. This sweet beast and bird statuary, what looks like a heartless emblem combined with a caduceus, and another gorgeous stained glass light source. If you get high enough at the end of the room, you can even see behind the curtain a bit, but even this looks extremely cool. And my personal favorite, just because it's so rare for this game, these Vulture Raven things actually have enough collision to stand on. I went back and checked, and you absolutely can pull this off legitimately during the fight. I'd love for this to be some advanced tech, but once again, if you're ever flying with her on her platform, she'll just vanish until you're not. Now, she fled through this dark portal, and she was nice enough to leave it open for us, but she also dropped a little something something. Cheer for Donald is a great get, of course, but we also got a new Ansem report. Number 5. Does anyone else think it's weird we've only gotten odd numbered reports so far? This one finally goes into the door that he's alluded to a few times in future reports. He found it by studying and following a shadow, so of course, this was the door to his world's heart. Not much more to that one, let's pursue our villainess.
Do you need some help?
Riku!
Is that?
Yes, a Keyblade. But unlike yours, this Keyblade holds the power to unlock people's hearts. Allow me to demonstrate. Behold! Now, open your heart. Surrender it to the darkness. Become darkness itself!
This is it. This power. Darkness. The true darkness!
Dragon Maleficent is the hardest required boss yet, with a record 1200 HP, insane range, and a wicked fast attack cycle. She feels like a combination of all the toughest foes we've ever faced. My first encounter with her is such a core memory. I remember watching one of my sisters throw herself at this flaming brick wall over and over again, and cheering her on every time another color revealed itself on the HP bar. I see yellow. I see green. One last bar, you can do it! It took us hours of attempts, and upon finally paying attention to her attacks, it's no mystery why. She has immense control of her arena, and every tactic that worked on the likes of Cerberus is completely worthless here. Try and stay behind her, she will create a deadly shockwave with every step as she rotates to face you, or else smack you with her tail. Try to stay on her back and pick at her with range, good luck avoiding these homing fireballs. Well then, how about we face her head on, directly in front of her teeth and claws, huh? Dead center on her fire breath's range, huh? The only way we pulled this off as kids was an overabundance of items and healing. Her only point of vulnerability is her head, which won't stop swinging around. What were we gonna do? Weave through her bullet hell and patiently await the scant safe openings like this double shockwave? No, I didn't wanna then, and honestly, that's still a lot to ask these days. But I have excellent news. Her massive pool of health is actually her downfall, and if you know how to exploit it, this fight will be over quicker than it was in her movie. Donald just got cheer. That means we have all 3, and if we equip them all, our summon bar will be stupidly long. Load up on some ethers, maybe grab an elixir, unequip any air combo pluses, and most importantly, equip EXP 0. Yes, you're gonna miss out on 6,000 XP from beating her, trust me, it's small potatoes. The reason, of course, lies with those hidden damage floors we discussed with Riku. At her tremendous amount of HP, her damage floor when EXP 0 is on is set to 8. Now unless you're on a level 1 run, all your attacks are far more likely to hit her damage cap than her floor. But here's where things get juicy. Resistances, such as Mel's 0.49x damage modifier when hit by fire, are calculated after damage caps. So even though our Phyra should do 48 damage when considered with our 14 MP, it gets capped at 20, then resisted to 9 or 10. I honestly don't know if it rounds up or down. However, damage floors are thrown into the mix after resistances, but we haven't quite justified equipping EXP 0 yet, so here's the pièce de résistance. As another hidden function of this ability, all damage floors are doubled upon landing a combo finisher, and in a critical oversight, they are not reset until you land another physical attack. People who undertake level 1 runs call this nifty little glitch damage storage, and if you're paying attention, it ensures that if we can just land one full combo, all magic we can swing Mel's way will bottom out at 16 damage. Once again, this doesn't ignore immunities, and some foes like Black Fungi and Hercules have special damage caps which supersede all this noise, but for a fight like this, it is a godsend. So, here we go. Whack her head 3 times, retreat to the relative safety of these thorny vines surrounding the arena, summon Genie, and in conjunction with some well-placed fireballs, watch all 4 of her health bars simply melt away. While you might have to be a little careful of her own fireballs, she'll go down in mere moments if you just keep your wits about you. And of course, I am contractually obligated to throw in a fight fire with fire joke here.
Gotcha! Fire! See ya!
How ironic. She was just another puppet after all.
What?
The Heartless were using Maleficent from the beginning. She failed to notice the darkness in her heart eating away at her. A fitting end for such a fool.
This is another really wonderful moment lodged deep in my memory. Beating Maleficent feels so empty. The matriarch of the villains, the final battle we've been building up to, and she was just another victim. She may have been commanding the Heartless, but she was not their source. It seems like Riku's new voice double might have some answers for us, but before we give chase, I want to point out where we are in this arena. This is within that highest tower at the top of the castle. If you look up, you can see it twisting off to the side. There's also a hole in the top of the skybox here, and since it's not centered on the tower, it's possible to see it just by looking through these windows, which is an odd oversight. Subtle difference back in the chapel, these fires are all burning a more natural orange now that Maleficent no longer has power over this place. And oddly, all the bird heads that were here have disappeared, and I don't know what to make of that. It's probably an oversight, but there's a distinct possibility that much of this castle's opulence is just an illusion perpetuated by her magic, and this is the first sign of that beginning to crumble. But speaking of opulence, the Great Hall makes such an incredible impression. The princesses in stasis, the keyhole to darkness. How can you walk up these stairs and not feel the sense of crescendo? But wait! If you continue to the end of this room, you will commence a series of events that will result in monumental, irrevocable changes to this whole game, including the mass rebalancing of stats to nearly every enemy we've ever faced. They will all be put on or above the level of the creatures we've encountered here in Hollow Bastion, most notably the rare Heartless that drop unique synthesis materials. At this point, if you plan on completing the synthesis side quest, which is necessary for multiple achievements as well as some of the best equipment in the game, this is the best time to gather the materials you need, especially from Sniper Wilds, Giga Shadows, Jet Balloons, and Stealth Soldiers. If you've been following along and synthesized everything that I have, then you'll still need 3 Power Stones, 3 Fury Stones, 6 Dazzling Stones, and 6 Energy Stones. All these enemies fall especially easy prey to our newest summon. Revived from the Fire Glow we picked up from that big dragon, we can now use Mushu, Mulan's little Spitfire companion. His Fire Breath attack is slightly stronger than the damage of Aurora, but I shouldn't need to sell you on this. It is a machine gun that can shred apart any enemy not immune to fire. In a single use of this summon, Mushu can genuinely shoot 100 times. And you can bet he and Damage Floors are absolute best buds. Just look at what he does to the Jet Balloon.
Jump back, I'm pretty hot, huh?
And by attaining every summon, we earned the Lord Fortune Staff for Donald, which is almost as good as the Wizard's Relic, making it better than any weapon you could have bought for him by now. If you haven't touched Synthesis yet, and honestly more power to you if you haven't, here are the sum totals of literally every item you can currently get that you'll need to craft everything. But you can still hold off on getting the Serenity Powers, Frost Stones, Blazing Stones, and Mithril Stones until later, as we haven't quite yet gotten the best tools for the job. Don't worry, Stealth Soldiers aren't so good at stealth that they've removed themselves from your memory. They were just hiding in the castle so well that they didn't present an easy opportunity to detour. These sneaky boys are a little unlike most rare Heartless in that it can be very difficult to tell when they've spawned just by entering their room. Here in the entry hall, they spawn alongside several normal enemies if they show up at all. So here's what to look for. I like this route running out the back, through the lift stop, and across the gate area to repeatedly enter the room from the front. Normally, the spawn here in the center of the room is 6 dark balls, but if only 4 spawn, that means there's an invisible stealth soldier in their midst. Immediately whip out your summon of choice. Mushu is great because his fire's homing properties will eviscerate the stealth soldier once you get a lock on him. In a lot of ways, he's like Dumbo, with the major advantage of retaining near full control over Sora while he lets loose. However, Dumbo's invincibility is still a pretty decisive advantage. You can lock onto a stealth soldier briefly after they move with this blue light effect, but when he won't let you, you can still hit him by spraying and praying. Once you reduce their HP enough, they'll turn visible and essentially just be slightly faster soldiers from that point. It's definitely worth noting that they'll always try to flee if they're the last enemy standing, so always focus on them first. One other strategy is stop spam. They don't get frozen for long, but being stopped reveals them and locks them down long enough for a few hits, so it's all down to preference. All that over with, let's head back to the Scary Great Hall. I feel I would be depriving you of something core to this game's experience by not letting this scene play out in full, even if you know every line by heart.
Kairi! 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 Open your eyes!
It's no use. That girl has lost her heart. She cannot wake up.
What? You're not Riku?
The keyhole cannot be completed, so long as the last Princess of Heart still sleeps.
The princess? Kairi's a princess?
Yes. And without her power, the keyhole will remain incomplete. It is time she awakened.
Whoever you are, let Riku go! Give him back his heart!
But first, you must give the princess back her heart.
What's...
Don't you see yet? The princess's heart is responding. It has been there all along. Kairi's heart rests within you.
Kairi's inside me?
There it is, one of the memed lines. It goes, "Say fellas, I'm me, Kairi's inside me." And while I guess they could have workshopped the wording a bit, this reveal is still ace. There have been drops of foreshadowing to it scattered across the game, each with enough space between that you could reasonably forget each one by the time you reach the next. It finally contextualizes all of these Kairi hallucinations as her thoughts spilling over into ours. Confirms that this scene was indeed a flashback, which in turn solidifies Hollow Bastion as Kairi's original home. And by far the coolest takeaway from that circles back to this throwaway scene in Deep Jungle, where Sora found this castle familiar. And it's because this castle is Hollow Bastion before it became the twisted hub of evil it is now. How Jane has a photo of it is another question entirely, but if you remembered this line and it rang familiar when this line came up, you could very well have figured out exactly what was going on early. And that is pure dopamine.
Tell me, who are you?
It is I, Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness.
And another reveal we barely have time to take in, the benevolent ruler of a lost world, now obsessed with darkness and possessing our old friend.
So, I shall release you now, Princess. Complete the keyhole with your power. Open the door. Lead me into everlasting darkness.
It's a lot to process, but now's the time for action.
Sora! Forget it. There's no way you're taking Kairi's heart.
Riku Ansem, the most notorious required fight in the game. Designed with the sole intent to force you back to basics. No magic, no party members, no summons, just you two and your swords, just like old times. Considering how we barely scraped by our bout with him downstairs, and now all of his attacks are revamped with huge dark hitboxes, you might be clenching up for a hell of a duel here, but in terms of the pure nuts and bolts of the fight, he's not nearly as difficult as Dark Riku for one simple reason. His retaliation counter is back up to 4 instead of 3, so we can actually rely on the same 1-2-3-1 kind of strategy we used on him on Destiny Islands. He has 900 HP and each of his 3 health bars represents a different phase, but our approach in all 3 will be more or less the same. In his first phase, he has all the same attacks he did in the entry hall. A jump attack, a slashy dash, and a spin attack. He also has this new plunging attack with a nasty shockwave, but he tends not to do that one as long as you land hits regularly enough. Now the biggest problem is that, once again, his retaliation attack cracks off wicked fast. and since it can either be his dash or spin attack, consistently staying safe when he counters is extremely unlikely. But not impossible. His prerogative in this first phase is to wait you out, test your abilities, and counter your offense. Since he's just going to keep incessantly waiting for you to make the move, give him what he wants. Jump in and attack to cause him to sidestep. He'll always follow up a sidestep with a jumping attack, and here's your opening. Jump in behind Riku, not directly over his head because the jump has a pretty tall hitbox, and get your hits in. Here's the tricky part. You want to get in 3 hits of an air combo, land, and then immediately jump forward and get 1 more hit. Your air combo finisher should always put you in the ideal position so this next hit keeps you safe from both his retaliation attacks. This combo is the foundation of this fight. If you can get this down, the whole thing's easy. Otherwise, you will just have to swallow some damage down the line. That's not the end of the world, there are plenty of openings to heal, particularly in this first phase. He has his old taunting guard that gives you the opportunity to do anything you want, and if you get behind him, you can even get a free hit that doesn't affect his retaliation counter when he taunts a second time. Generally though, if you want to move on with the fight, just hit the guard and run away. In phase 2, he'll drop guard from his set and introduce Dark Hand. When he uses this, he'll imbue the rest of his attacks with additional hitboxes, and become much more aggressive, chasing you down and cracking off attacks near constantly. We still want to bait out his dodge and jump attack combo, but we no longer want to attack to do that. Just orbit around him and draw as close as you're comfortable with, and he'll do it on his own. Now his improved jump has these 2 shockwaves to either side, and if you're directly in front of him, he'll always follow up immediately with a dash attack, including a new shock/projectile. Luckily, you should already be used to jumping behind him, and from here, he's just as vulnerable as he is in his normal state. So now the only thing to look out for is his improved plunge attack, which causes dark geysers to erupt around your position. But the hitbox is shorter than it looks, so just glide around a little, and thankfully, using that attack always drains him of his darkness, and he'll humor you with the same patterns as in phase 1 for a bit, usually only long enough for you to get 1 combo though. Dark Hand itself is extremely slow, and undoubtedly the safest time to heal, but it's also the best time to get in some damage. You can get as many as 6 hits in if you're close enough when he breaks this out. It may even be tempting just to avoid him entirely while he's powered up, and get your licks in this way, but that strategy will not carry you through his final phase. He'll power up with Dark Hand and never look back. Upside, he no longer uses his plunge attack. Downside, instead he has his desperation move, Dark Aura, a 3-stage attack that keeps him invincible the entire time. It begins with a dash directly towards you, then several lightning-quick dashes across the arena, and finally another plunge attack that raises those dark geysers almost everywhere. Thank goodness, this attack has a few significant blind spots. Apart from the first dash, which can only miss you if you're in midair, the area of effect is pretty uniform, and excludes these areas by these control consoles. At least 95% of the time it does. These geysers are pretty random, but it's better than trying to wait out the whole thing by gliding. This gives you space to heal, and if you really want, you can use this opportunity to stock your magic and just spam invincibility frames of your own using your limit of choice. I mean, it's certainly safer, but if you've got the resources to spare, it'll serve you better, almost guaranteed. Another option that feels less risky, use magic. Yeah, he's immune, but similar to Hook, that immunity makes him predictable. If he's not in the middle of something else, he'll always respond to your spells with one of his own. Dark Firaga is a projectile that's honestly pretty easy to deflect, and despite his damage immunity, he does take damage from this. I certainly found this strategy to be far more reliable, but way more tedious, and frankly, a boring insult to the blistering back and forth this fight is built to be. The energy is absolutely electric. Blow by blow, Riku's raw talent, Ansem's sheer power, Sora's utter persistence. It all amounts to such an incredible yet brutal clash, and few feel better to overcome.
Riku!
Sora, yuck!
Oh, the keyhole! It won't work! The keyhole's not finished yet!
What can we do?
Maybe we gotta go wake Kyrie up.
I think you're right. If we can free her heart... But how?
The Keyblade originally picked Riku, but in a moment of doubt, landed on Sora because Riku's heart faltered in the darkness, and Sora's was there as a light for it to latch onto. He is our protagonist not by fate, not by ordinance, but by pure happenstance. He wasn't born special, and though he may have been chosen, he wasn't the first choice.
A Keyblade that unlocks people's hearts. I wonder.
He's not driven by revenge, he's just along for the ride on Donald and Goofy's quest. He's not a remarkable kid, but he is a remarkable hero. An unfaltering, childlike will to see good in the world, to see the best in everyone he meets, and to do absolutely anything for his friends. Who besides him would do this with a smile? Forgive me, but I simply could not resist a good cliffhanger. I'd love to tell you what you can expect next, but I really don't want to spoil the surprise if this is your first time with the game. That being said, if you're watching this on YouTube, the next chapter is available on my Patreon right now. Come check it out with the link below, and you will be among the legendary plethora to whom I owe my immense thanks, such as Amiri the Grey, who turns to stone whenever someone perceives her, but she's an absolute god at red light green light. Andrew Minturn, architect of the world's largest pillow fort, at 8 stories tall with fully functional utilities. Raven has consumed the essence of void and says it tastes like cherry limeade. Raisin Bran, the only man who smells better than any soap or deodorant. RPG Grenade has a timeshare in the eternal rewards of 6 different cultures, including Elysium and Valhalla, but he's still shopping around, don't want to make any hasty decisions. Rockington doesn't just know how to relax, but to relax. I'm told the average human mind can't comprehend that level of zen. Alex, Seeker of Shine Sprites, isn't sure where the legions of undying soldiers that have pledged allegiance to him came from, but they make great housekeepers. Meryl Hainsworth can make literally anything out of the lemons life gives her, but it turns out that's kind of a rare happenstance. Steve is the only guy who doesn't start manually breathing when you mention it, lucky bastard. Sea Salt Trio spent years trying and failing to pull a rabbit out of a hat, and long story short, that's why we have things like jerboas now. Lotta Otter has control over 1 random superpower per day. It usually takes most of the day to figure out what it is, but once he gets that down, it's pretty sweet. And Games Freak SA, Tamer of the Wyvern and Slayer of the Thunglor. More obsessive shoutouts to Busy Town, Chico Mode, Chris Braydell, Duck Crimson, Eric Lee, Fundeldor, Jay Wibbs, Kane Lowend, Kinori-san, Pagagallo, Quoth, Red Panda King, Remus, Rucksack 358-2, Sato DeSable, Scar Million, 10-Beat, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, Undead Crisis, Zere, and the rest of you overwhelmingly spectacular patrons. You are all remarkable heroes in your own right, and I will see you in the next one.